Welcome back, guys, to another tattoo critique episode where I take a look at your work, we go through it, we see if there's some stuff you could have done better, let you know if you're on track, maybe you're off track, just kind of try to build you up and tell you what I think. And again, take everything with a grain of salt. I'm just a guy with an opinion. First piece is from Connor. Connor's been practicing on fake skin for a few months. They went ahead and did these two pieces on their leg. The first one was the moth and the second one was the 1992. If we take a look at this moth, we see it's not too bad, especially from the proper distance. The distance you're probably gonna see it walking around or being around. It's not a bad tattoo. The black is packed quite well. There's a few lines, as you can see, up around the top of the wings, if you will, that might have gone over a few times. Maybe they're a little bit wobbly, but it's not the end of the world in this piece, especially for practicing on yourself. I think it turned out all right. I see you did some sort of maybe a stipple shading, maybe a little bit of dots. It's hard to say. It looks more like stipple to me. But overall, a pretty decent piece. Now, again, there's things we can change, but you're on that course. You're moving that way. You're going to slowly make those little changes yourself. Let's take a look at the second one you did, the 1992. There's some good stuff here. It's solid black. I don't see any openings, any holidays in there. It looks good. Now, the one thing I did notice, and again, it's not that big a deal, especially in the beginning. People are going to see this and go, wow, that's a nice little clean tattoo right there. But those nines are a little different from each other. A few spots on them aren't exactly the same, which is kind of tough when they're sitting right next to each other. So just pay attention to the little details. You can always go back in, because it's pure black, and smooth these things out. Maybe take something that wasn't quite the way you wanted it and drag it out a little bit or whatnot. But overall, you're doing good. Keep at it. Take your time. You're moving in a solid direction. And thank you for sending those in. Next piece is from Lauren. Lauren's been tattooing for about a year now and wants to know what she can do to improve. The roses are the very first tattoo Laura did using a coil machine. She is now using a stigma machine when she did the gorilla and feels that's definitely the way she's gonna go. All right, if we take a look at these flowers right here. Now, when it comes to the leaves going around the outside, I like those. I like that they're dark and you have this little bit of light in the middle of them. They're well shaped. I just like the leaves, if you will. The lining on this piece is also relatively decent. I didn't notice anything popping out. If you zoom in, sure, we can find some tiny little imperfections here and there, but overall the lining is decent. Now, I can tell you're clearly learning how to shade, and again, you were using a coil machine here, so a little bit more to control and handle. But I think the problem for me is the choice of flowers kind of is a fail in my opinion. I'm not really a fan of this style of flower. It's hard to make this look the greatest, but again, that's just my opinion. So I think continue to work on the shading. Obviously, that's where the struggle is here. But the beauty of black and gray sometimes is even when it looks a little rough, it will heal a little better than you expect. So this might heal out okay. Maybe go back and do a little work there. But nonetheless, moving in a direction I see. Now, when we jump over to the gorilla here, really cool. I know this is black work. There is clearly no shading like in the last piece. But the black work here is nice. It's solid. I mean, very well done as far as packing black. From the lines that I can see that would be around the teeth and whatnot, they seem relatively crisp. And again, the black is vibrant. The image is easily readable. So good job. Again, you're heading down that road. You're working on things. You have a machine that you like to use now. I think that if you just stay consistent, take your time, keep looking at your work, trying to find the little imperfections. Don't let them kill you, but let them, learn from them. And the next piece you go at, try to work a little harder on those little things. But nonetheless, thank you for sending that in. Our next piece is from Kristen. Kristen had been practicing a lot on fake skin for a while in preparation for a hopeful apprenticeship. Kristen got the apprenticeship now. This is the first tattoo on skin and want to know what I thought. With that said, let's take a look at the skull right here. Now again, as a whole, if you're just looking at this walking down the road, I think it looks decent. We have a skull, black eyes, nose, a crown, no problems, right? And for the most part, there's not. If you look, all the lines where in the skull and what have you, relatively clean, no issues. The eyes and the nose are packed black well. So again, a lot of things going well here. It's when we get up to the crown that we start to find a little bit of some issues. And while there are some things here and there in the crown, the main line or two that is, really throwing this one off, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of good things done here, are the two bottom lines going across the crown. While again, yes, there are a few other ones up at the top, but I just want to focus on these two right here. What I think, and I think the problem you had here is when you were tattooing, I like to pull lines towards me. I have better control, or this way, right? Now with these, they're going like this. Now if you're sitting there like this, running the lines this way, it could have been a little bit harder. Remember, put yourself in the best position possible. If this is an arm or a leg, instead of staying in one spot, move your body to a spot where now I can pull those lines the most comfortable way possible. It doesn't happen all the time. You can't always get in that perfect position. But when there are some long lines like that, I will try my hardest to put myself in the best position, even if that makes my client uncomfortable temporarily, because I'm pretty sure they would appreciate a cleaner line and be uncomfortable. So nonetheless, I think that you're doing good work here. I think this is decent work, and I think you're just going to need a little bit more time and practice. That's all. Fake skin's one thing, real skin's another thing. Overall, I don't think there's anything horrible about this tattoo. I just think there's a few things that could be corrected a bit, and you're also using different lines and different line weights, so there's a lot going on and a lot you're doing at one time. So again, I would just stay consistent, keep pushing at trying to get those thicker lines as clean as possible. But thank you for sending that in, and congratulations on your apprenticeship. Keep at it, don't let anybody stop you, and thank you for sending that in. Alright guys, our next piece is from Kenneth. So Kenneth sent in a few pieces that were decent, that he's working on his lining, but I chose this photo so we can talk about it because I know this location and what is happening here is a struggle for many people. And Kenneth's been tattooing for 2 years now, never too late to start. Let's check this piece out. So if we take a look at the foot piece here, zoomed in a little bit, you can tell that, again, from a little bit further away, it looks relatively okay. The circles are circular. I will say that. I mean, the lines are a little patchy and what have you, but the circles are technically relatively decent circles. Everything is proportionate. The pieces are where they're at, and the sides are supposed to be, if this is making sense. Clearly, the problem here is a consistent needle depth, a constant up and down, in and out, start and stop. It's hard. The foot is thin-skinned, so it's tricky. You're going to try to go gentle but deep enough. So again, practicing, stay off the foot, stay off the hand. The hand's a little bit better than the foot, but stay off the foot because you're going to end up with situations like this. And if your work looks like this, is because you're not comfortable enough. You're not understanding that drop the needle in, pull the line, and come out. There's shakiness, you're not stretching the skin, your depth is in and out, there's nerves going a little bit too much here. So I just want to show you this to say, don't make the mistake of practicing on these areas that you really should stay off of until you feel confident and comfortable enough to do so. This is a fixable tattoo. It's not the end of the world horrible, but again, you gotta stay off these body parts. How would I fix this? I would find a bit thicker of a liner or maybe a thicker of a round shader, and once this heals, go over it again so that it has a consistent line weight all the way around it. There's other things you can do as well, but stay off the foot. And Kenneth, by the way, some of your other work, I see the lines in other locations are improving big time, so keep at it, and thank you for sending your work in, Kenneth. Our next piece is from Jenny. Jenny's been tattooing for a few months now, has a little bit of work to do, just genuinely wants an opinion. So Jenny sent in a few pieces. I grabbed a couple of them. The first one I want to take a look at is this Angela, which overall is a pretty well done. It's lined well, it's packed well. I don't really have any serious qualms with this. But when I talked about it in my last video, I was critiquing my own stuff when it came to lettering in the beginning, is that some of these letters, be careful. We end up making the insides of them so small that when they heal and after a few years, they're just going to spread a little bit, and those letters are going to kind of look a little blobby. Specifically in this one would be the inside of the E and the bottom of the G. Now, what I try to do nowadays is really take some thought before I do those letters and think, okay, how close are these together? Yes, on paper it's one way, but when you tattoo it, it's another. And on those inside lines, I try to stay on the other side of those lines. And I know this might sound confusing, but if the line is here, I'll try to be like on that side and on that side of it, so the inside section has a little bit more room to breathe. So again, that's pretty much all I would do here. Besides that, it looks pretty stinking nice. Now, if we jump over to this hourglass here, again, it's relatively nice. The line work is decent, nothing crazy jumping out at me. The design is decent. no problems there. The problem I have is when we come down to the flower at the bottom. The shading is 100% one-noted across. Every petal in that has the same shade in it. Even the leaf at the bottom contains the same shade. So there is no contrast here. The thing is in the shading, we need a little contrast. We need to know what's deep down in that flower. Where's the lighter spots on this flower? It doesn't have to be realistic, but we do have to put a little bit more contrasting shades in there. So again, here, the only thing I would say is maybe go back and later on and put a little more depth in this piece and maybe think about that in the pieces moving forward. But overall, looking at your work, I think again you're on the right track. You're heading in that direction. Just a little bit more time and effort. So keep at it, and thank you for sending those in. Our next piece is from Nico. Nico is from Chile. He's only been tattooing for a short period of time. He sent in a few pieces and he looks forward to what we have to say. So if we take a look at this first piece here, I have nothing negative to say. I think this looks pretty decent. It's relatively smooth lines. I can see what it is. It's well placed. So nice job there. The problem I have is when we jump to these next couple. We'll start with this heart. Now, she did say in her write-up there that this heart was a redo, so clearly somebody had done it. She was sprucing it up a bit. But if we zoom in, we can see quite a bit of blowouts in this. And again, I'm not sure if she did this or the person prior did this, but let's just take a look at it. And this is down, appears to be down on the ankle, and the ankle is a little bit of a thin-skinned area, so we have to be a little more cautious there. We can't go full throttle and throw those needles in there, which clearly somebody did here. So if this was you, take your time, start light in these areas, see how it takes, apply a little bit more pressure until you find that sweet spot in the spot that you're in. Every spot, every location has sort of that sweet spot. And when I start a line, I'll start it kind of light if I'm in a fresh area. Boom, okay. Sometimes it's like, oh, that took perfect. We're rolling at that, that pressure and everything else. Sometimes it's a little light, so we adjust fire. And then we jump over to this beer with the dad, and you can really see that that dad specifically is quite blown out. And there are other locations as well in here that are blown out as well. So again, that's going to come back to that, what I just said before. A little less pressure, test it out, and then increase pressure, voltage, whatever you need to from there. But these are blown out, and there's not really a lot you can do to hide that. Now, I've done plenty of tattoos where there's a blowout here and there, and we always hope that those blowouts stay kind of small and relatively difficult to see. Luckily, this is a small tattoo, but those blowouts are quite visible nonetheless. So take it as a learning experience and move forward with it. You had a couple other pieces that had no blowouts. So again, it could just be a consistency thing, a location thing, but again, listen to that, take your time, start lighter, feel the skin out, and then adjust fire from there. But thank you for sending these in. All right, guys, our last piece is from Swamp Tats, and he's only been tattooing a couple weeks. He sent in a few pieces. Overall, he's got some more work to do, but he did show this photo right here of a tattoo on the inside of the finger. Now, I'm not really here to critique his work. He's got some more time to go, still early on, but I do want to talk about just tattooing the inside of our fingers. Now keep in mind, this tattoo I'm assuming is really not there anymore. If it is, it's faint, it's not really easy to see. So keep in mind, inside these fingers, things don't last very long. It's constantly being moved. This skin is constantly falling out and fresh skin coming in. These are our palms. This is very much still in conjunction in the same location. So for me, I always tell my clients, I'm not really interested in tattooing the insides of your fingers, because you're going to have to come back on a regular few times to get them touched up. Even if you drill them in there and you don't blow them out but get them right in there, I still don't think that they heal very well or look very well in the long run. So for me, I pretty much try to encourage my clients away from tattooing the insides of their fingers, their palms. Now, there are people out there that probably do a fantastic job at that, so kudos to you guys. But I'm going to encourage you guys as well to stay away from tattooing the insides of your fingers. It's most of the time just going to fade, and you're not really going to know what you're looking at. So I thank you for sending this in so I could use this as an example to show other people what we don't really want to do. And also, I can tell just by looking at this photo that was not put in solid enough to last. If you guys want to have your work on the show, send your work to artmesomething@gmail.com. We have quite a few emails there. I do my best to go through and find some pieces that I think will help you guys out. I cannot get to everybody. It's just not going to happen. I will say, if you're going to send work in, send 2 pieces, not 5, not 10, not 15, not all the works you've done. 2 pieces tops. That gives me a couple of pieces to look at and tell you what you need to do to improve. So guys, if you want to send your work in, send it here. Send it only here, not to my Facebook, not to my Instagram, nowhere else, just here. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, ring the bell to get notification when we post. Until next time, my friends, peace.